Alrighty, hello. I'm back and we're gonna finish off or do some more of, well, there's only like 3 pages left of the language chapter of The Absorbant Mind by Maria Montessori. So we left off last time describing language as a photo developing in the dark completely before we're able to see its results. So she describes it as the mechanism of learning a language begins in the deepest shadows of the unconscious mind. There it is developed and then product becomes fixed. Then only does it appear in the open. Beyond question, there are some magical mechanisms at work causing all of this to happen within the child to learn language. Once we are convinced of this, it is natural to wonder what exactly takes place, and today there is much enthusiasm for technical researches into this problem. But one side of this work, which is purely observational, we can do for ourselves. This is to watch the visible events, these, after all, being the only ones of which we can be sure. Such studies must be very exact. They are carried on today with the utmost care from birth to 2 years or more. What happens every day is noted, and also the period in which development remains stationary. From such notes, certain facts stand out like milestones. The quantity of inner work may be immense, yet the outer signs of it are often small. This means there is a great disproportion between the powers of expression and the inner work the child is doing. It is also found that the visible progress does not go gradually, but in jumps. At a certain time, for example, the power to pronounce syllables appears, and then for months the child utters only syllables. Externally, he would seem to be making no progress, but all of a sudden he says a word, and then for a long time he uses only 1 or 2 words, and seems discouragingly slow to go any further than this. Nevertheless, other forms of activity show that his inner life is undergoing a steady and remarkable expansion. Yet things are very different in our own experience. We read in history of primitive people who lived for centuries at a very low level, seemingly incapable of progress. But this is only the outer appearance, visible to the historian. The truth is that a continuous inner growth is taking place, which suddenly appears in a series of discoveries leading to rapid change. Then there follows another period of calm and slow development, before the next vigorous outburst. Just the same thing happens with man's language in childhood. There is no smooth and slow advance, word by word, but here also we find explosive phenomena, as psychologists call them, which are not provoked by any teacher's actions, but occur for themselves out of no apparent reason. Every child at a particular period of his life bursts out with a number of words, all perfectly pronounced. Within a space of 3 months, the child who was almost dumb, meaning not able to speak or hear, learns to use easily all the varied forms of the noun, suffixes, prefixes, and verbs of its language. And in every child, all this occurs at the end of the 2nd year of his life. So we ourselves may take courage from this child's example and be willing to wait. From the stagnant periods of history, we may always hope that progress will come. Perhaps the foolishness of man is less than it seems. Wonderful things for the future may lie waiting for explosions in the inner life, which is hidden from us. These explosive happenings and eruptions in his powers of expression continue in the child well after the age of 2. There is in the use of sentences simple and complex. the use of verbs in their tenses and moods, including the subjunctive, coordinate and subordinate clauses appear in the same unexpected way. So become established the mental structures and the language mechanisms of expression peculiar to the race or social class to which that child belongs. This is a treasure prepared in the unconscious, which is then handed over to the consciousness, and the child, in full possession of his new power, talks and talks without cessation. Beyond this age of 2.5, which marks a borderline in man's mental formation, there begins a new period in the organization of language, which continues to develop without explosions, but with a great deal of liveliness and spontaneity. This second period will last till somewhere about the 5th or 6th year, and during it the child learns many new words and perfects his sentence formation. It is true that if the child's circumstances are such that he hears very few words, or nothing but dialect, he will come to speak like this. But if he lives among cultured people with a wide vocabulary, he takes it all in equally as well. Circumstances, therefore, are very important, and yet the child's language at this time becomes rich no matter what the surroundings are. Some Belgian psychologists have found that the child of 2.5 has only 200 or 300 words available, but at 6 he knows of thousands. All of this happens without a teacher or formal teacher that we think. It is spontaneous acquisition. And after he has done all this by himself, sends him to school, and we offer him as a great treat to teach him the alphabet. We must be careful to bear in mind the double path which is always followed. There is an unconscious activity that prepares speech, succeeded by a conscious process, which slowly awakens and takes from the unconscious what it can offer. And the final result is man. The child of 6 who has learned to speak correctly, knowing and using the rules of his native tongue, could never describe the unconscious work from which all this has come. Nevertheless, it is he, man, who is the creator of speech. He does it entirely by himself, but if he lacked this power and could not spontaneously master his language, no effective work would ever have been done by the world of men, and there would be no such thing as civilization. This is the true perspective in which we must see the child. This is his importance. The child makes everything possible. On his work stands civilization. This is why we must offer the child the help he needs, and be at his service so that he does not have to walk alone. All right. I think it's a beautiful way to end that chapter. That was the end of chapter, the Some Thoughts on Language, and then there's another language chapter in this book called How Language Calls to the Child. So, I think that's good. I will do that second chapter soon. Alrighty, we'll see you then. Thank you.